All right, so we're going to do another calculator, of course. This time we're looking at the confidence interval, and I'll show you how to create a calculator to look at any confidence interval any confidence interval that you want to look at. What you see right here, this is the formula for confidence interval. Now there is one thing that I need to point out to you. I'll walk you through all of it, but this 1.96 is not a constant. It's not a constant value all the time. That depends on the kind of confidence interval that we're creating. The 1.96 is important for the 95% confidence interval, and the 95% confidence interval is usually the one that you're going to use. It corresponds to an alpha of 0.05, which of course is our usual benchmark. However, there's different reasons why you might use a different alpha and a different confidence interval. So this can change. All right, so before we do anything else, I'm going to walk you through this formula. The confidence interval is going to be a range. Right, it's going to be a low value to a high value. This right here, this mu sub e, this is just the mean, right? So you're going to take your mean and you're going to add it to what's on the right side of this plus minus symbol. And you're also going to have this mean and subtract what's on the right side of this plus minus symbol. That's how you get your range. So again, this is the mean. Then you're going to add and subtract. And you've got this, again, this is the constant for 95% confidence interval. But this is going to change based on what kind of confidence interval you want to create. And then this is the standard error of the mean. So what I've got up here is the standard error of the mean calculator. If you want to know how to create that, there's a link to the standard error of the mean calculator in the description of this video. All right, so let's give you a list of... move that over here. Yeah, okay, good. So I'm going to give you a list of values that you're going to plug into this formula for different confidence intervals. These are z-values to give you a certain percentage of the distribution covered. So I will make a list here. You should make this list as well unless you want to memorize it. Memorizing it is great. There's a lot of values to memorize, but it does come in handy. I can tell you that over the years of doing statistics and teaching statistics, I have memorized only one of these, which is the 95% confidence interval value, which is 1.96. All right, so we're going to start with 80. Where's my percent sign? Oh, totally wrote that in the wrong place. Okay. Oh, because I don't have numlock turned on. Well, that's a total noob mistake. All right. So we're going to do 80%. Let me just write out all these that we're going to do. We're going to do 80, 85, 90, 95. And then we're going to start getting really narrow and do 98 and 99. So 80, 85, 90, 95, 98, and 99. And we've got a different z-value for all of these. You'll notice something as we go through. There's a relationship between the percentage and the value. So this, you know what? I'm going to turn on numlock because I know I'm going to do this again. There we go. Yeah, great. Okay. So 80% is 1.28. 85% is 1.44. 90% is 1.64. That one kind of exists in my mind because I've used 90%, but sometimes I forget and use it for 98, which is of course not good. 1.96, of course, is for 95%. For 98%, it's 2.33, and for 99%, it's 2.58. So this is a table that you should put into your calculator. Then you can just open your calculator and go from there. You don't have to look these values up because you have them. Now, really quickly, do a little bit of teaching, not just about making the calculator, but you can also see that this value grows as the percentage confidence interval grows. Now what this means is if you want to be 80% sure that your value is within that confidence interval, your confidence interval doesn't have to be that wide. You're only subtracting the standard error times 1.28 from the mean and adding the standard error times 1.28 to the mean. So this will create a small range. Then if you want to be 99% sure that your value is there, you're multiplying by a constant of 2.58. So this is, and then subtracting and adding that to the mean. So this is a much wider range. To be more sure that your value is inside this, you need a wider range. If you want to be less sure that your value is inside this, you can have a smaller range. So there is an inverse relationship between how sure you are that the value is inside the range and the size of the range. All right, let's get on to building this calculator. So we're going to put it right here. What do we need to know for this calculator? So there's a few things. We need to know the mean. We need to know the z-value, not z-law, z-value, and we need to know the standard error, but we have standard error up here already. So we can just use that as our reference. And what are we getting out? We're getting out two things, actually. So confidence interval is what we want, but we have a range. So we have a confidence interval, well, let's say, confidence interval low and confidence interval high. So we're going to have two values that we get from this. Let's put in a mean of, well, up here we're using a standard deviation of 40 and an n of 30. Let's make the mean 120. And let's make it a 95% confidence interval. So 1.96. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do here to create the low value is we're going to subtract the value on the right side of the plus minus sign from the mean. So what we're going to do is equals, because every formula starts with an equal sign. It tells Excel that it's going to have to do some sort of computation. So we're going to then say the mean, right, A5. Again, you can use your arrow keys to go over there. You can click on A5, or you can literally just type A5 into the formula. It all works the same. You just need to have it pointing to A5 in some way. Or wherever you're putting the value for the mean. It doesn't have to be an A5, but it can be. So we're doing the low value, so we want to subtract. Now let's go ahead and throw a open parenthesis down just so we can keep the next phrase in this mathematical formula together. It should stay together because we are multiplying, and Excel knows the order of operations, but it doesn't hurt to be neurotic about the order of operations to make sure that Excel is doing what you want it to do. Excel's pretty smart. It's not smarter than you, so you have to control it. All right, so what we want now is we want the z-value. So we're going to go to B5. Again, arrow keys, click on it, or type in B5. And we're going to multiply that by the standard error of the mean. And we can just move up to the standard error of the mean that we used in that first calculator, which in this case is in cell D2. Now, close your parentheses and hit enter. And you have 105.69, basically. And this makes sense, right? We've got a standard error of 7.3. We're multiplying it by about 2. So that's about 14-ish. And if you subtract 14 from 120, you get about 106. And that's what we have there. So that makes sense. Now we're going to do the high value. We could type all this in again, but we can also make it easier on ourselves. So what I want you to do is go to this formula that we just made and copy it up here in the formula bar. Highlight it Press Control-C. Now, be careful. What you have to do here is you have to hit Enter again, because you were telling Excel that you're messing with that formula, so you need to re-enter it. If you click on a cell or start typing, it's going to change the formula that's in that cell. So you have to hit Enter after you've copied that information, after you've copied that formula. So now in E5, for the high formula, you're going to just go Control V to paste that in. Now, if you've been following the series of calculator videos that I've showed you, you know that in the z-score formula calculator, when I copied something down, these values changed. A5, B5, and D2, because I'm moving them over to the right, would end up becoming B5, C5, and E2. And that didn't happen because I copied the exact formula from the formula bar. I didn't just copy the cell. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, so we have everything that we need in this formula. We just need to change the subtraction sign to a plus sign. Now hit Enter, and there you go. Remember again, the standard error is about 7. The z-value is about 2. So that is about 14. And we're adding something that's about 14 to 120. That gives us 134. And so there's our confidence interval for 95% confidence interval around a mean of 120. It ranges from 105.69 to 134.31. Now, what if we change some things? What if we want to change this to an 85% confidence interval? Well, 1.44. Now you can see that the confidence interval is much narrower. Now we go from 109.48 to 130.52. If we allow the confidence interval to shrink even more, down to 80%, now we've got 110.65 to 129.35. And if we want to be really sure, a 99% confidence interval, well, then we put in 2.58, and now we have 101.16 to 138.84. So it's a much wider range. The more sure you are that the values are there, the wider the range you have. And this is your calculator for the confidence interval. Okay. This is pretty much it. We can get crazier. I think I'm going to put that in a different video, though. We can make this a drop-down menu, and you can select from here what you want. But that's pretty advanced. I'll do it in a different video for people who are really into Excel. Anyway, so that's it for the confidence interval calculator. The next two that you should be moving on to after this is probably the t-test and the z-test. But again, if you've missed the standard error of the mean calculator, you're going to need it for this. So go back and watch that. Well, hopefully you went back and watched that earlier because you need it. All right. I will see you in the next video.